We continue our coverage remembering Junior Seau this morning. Joining us now is Jane Mitchell. You all know her, sports biographer who worked with Junior throughout her career. And Jane, good morning. First of all, we were just looking at your book here on the cover. There is a photo with you and Junior. First of all, your reaction when you heard the news yesterday?
You know, just really sad and shocked, you know, like everyone. I saw Junior in March at his teammates, the luncheon for the golf tournament, and just gave me a big hug. Always so warm, so inviting, so welcoming, just such a positive guy. You know, it just, the sad irony of it all, it just doesn't make sense.
Thinking back all the years that you knew Junior, do you have one memory, like your fondest memory? A lot of folks, when recalling their memories, it's always involving a laugh and a smile, always with Junior.
You know, I remember he was the very first Chargers that I featured for our show One-on-One at Channel 4. And just like Tony Gwynn was for the Padres, I knew I needed to get Junior's thumbs up for me to sort of make it in that world. He welcomed us into his home. He understood the media. He understood that we needed to tell and show the story. No one had really done anything like this, but I said, hey, we want to see you at your foundation. We want to see you at the restaurant. We want to see you working out. He goes, okay, Jane, but we're going to be there at 6 o'clock. Or I think it was 5. I said, well, can we get there at 6? So just big and warm, and you know, I think he did have the marquee sense of a movie star, of that celebrity, but he not just loved football, he loved San Diego, and I think that was through and through. You know, there's no question he was passionate.
He was passionate about that and about playing. I think you know, after playing 3 years at USC with that limelight, he came here, you know, he already knew how to handle his business, if you will. So,
but you know what? There's one thing that's interesting, and I think is so important that kids remember. You know, he grew up in a very humble situation in Oceanside, as we know, and he told me back then he remembered his father's prayers every evening, and he also remembered how he wanted to excel and beat his brothers, and he said that that was his gang. His gang was his family, was going and working harder and doing more sit-ups and more push-ups than his brothers. He wanted to excel. He had no doubt that he was destined for greatness.
Boy, that family and the brothers really gets your competitive juices flowing.
No doubt.
We have Terrell Fletcher on the phone, of course, former Charger player. Terrell, good morning, and thanks for joining us again. I wanted to just ask you again, I know we talked about this yesterday, how was Junior as a teammate for you? What did you see in that guy that made him so special?
Oh, well, one, I think just a natural-born leader. You know, he was one of those guys. I was sharing with somebody yesterday. He was one of those guys that was already naturally gifted. He was naturally bigger and stronger than everybody else. But he was a guy that paid the price nonetheless. He never took that for granted. And I was sitting with Fred McQuarrie talking about him yesterday, and he said, man, what is the number one thing we learned from Junior as a teammate? And the number one thing was that he taught us how to pay the price, to never take it for granted, the position we were in, but to pay the price. And really, that's a model that many of us still live by today, man. We just pressing hard, keep working hard, and pay the price.
And the message always of never forgetting where you come from and always giving back, which is so important to Junior. Have you talked to some of your teammates about this? I know you guys, a lot of former teammates are just talking about their shock and the sadness of all of this. Have you spoken to any former players, and what did you guys talk about?
Yeah, I talked to quite a few. Shock is probably the most prevailing emotion right now from all the guys. It's hard to believe, especially if you just played in this golf tournament a few weeks ago. There was nothing on the outside that prefigured that this may happen. Now, we know that doesn't mean anything, but, you know, guys are just, their hearts are broken, hurt, lost in emotion. But one thing that we do know, man, Junior was an amazing man, and he was an amazing athlete. And we were able oftentimes to differentiate the difference between the man and the athlete, man. He had a heart for the community, heart for his children and his family, and a heart for people that he barely even knew. So we just appreciated, you know, we just decided yesterday that we would celebrate and appreciate his life more than to dwell on the tragedy.
Well said, Terrell. Just love and appreciation. And Jane, I know that in your work with Junior, there's several pictures that you have in your book and so many stories. Can you share a few of those with us?
You know, I think one of the things that I was just watching, you know, sitting there interviewing him and just before the 2003 Super Bowl that was here. And I asked him in that interview, I said, you know, do you still strive for that Super Bowl ring? Which, of course, he still had some opportunities for that. And he said, you know, he has rings of life. Family, yes, friends. Does he want a Super Bowl ring? Yeah. Sure. But he has his rings. And I think I'll always keep that with me in my heart when I think of him.
I tell you what, yeah. By the way, in addition to all the Junior Seau stories in this book, one-on-one, so many great stories with other athletes. It's a great book. If you're a sports fan or anything, pick this thing up. Boy, Jane, it's a great work. Jane Mitchell, One-on-One is the book. Terrell Fletcher, we thank you for taking the time to chat with us again this morning, sir. Thanks for your time.
You know, I call it the good sports story. And Terrell, great to hear from you. But that is what these guys are about. Not everybody's perfect. Nobody is flawless, but they're good guys.
That's so important when you're talking about athletes, people we put up on a pedestal. Nobody's perfect.
No.
We all have our flaws.
And vulnerabilities, you know, and things, but it's how you deal with that and how you live your life. And so he is, in my book and in my heart, the epitome of the good sports story.
Well said. Jane Mitchell, thank you very much. Charlie, over to you.